Okay, so we are back here at module 3 and it's connections part 2. We just finished off on this slide about mirroring the child, and it works wonders with communication and connection, and it works wonders with everyone when we use the mirroring in the correct way. So going to the next slide. Another connection game for babies is Peekaboo. This game is amazing to play with babies, especially under 1 year old. It reflects the delicate balance of connection and the loss of connection. Mirroring, cuddling, talking, and singing to babies are all prototypes of play. Now, what goes on in a baby's mind when we play this game is the parent, the mummy or daddy, or the grandparents, they're there, and then when you cover your face, they disappear. And then all of a sudden, you're back. And this is thrilling for a child because when you cover your face, you actually disappear like a wizard or a ninja that would just completely disappear in thin air. And then all of a sudden, you appear again. But not only that, it teaches the child that you will go and then come back, go and then come back. So when you leave the room, when they're in the cot safely tucked away, or you're just going to pop out, even when you drop them off at the nursery, they will know that you're going to come back. Mummy goes, mummy comes back. Daddy goes, daddy comes back. The one concept that children and babies do not have under the age of 5 is the concept of time. They only live in the now. We have the concept of past, present, and future. So when you've gone, at that point, the child will think, oh, when mummy's gone, she's disappeared, or daddy's gone. And if they know that you're going to come back, you could be gone for hours and then come back. And to them, it'll just be like you've just left and come back. And this is in no way me saying that you leave a child by themselves. What I'm saying is when mothers and fathers leave the children at the nursery, the child sometimes cries because they know that the parent's going to go. And then the parent goes out upset, they go to work upset, they come back upset, thinking that their child has been crying all day. But they don't, because they don't know the concept of time. They know that the parent's going to come back. And that in their mind is all they have. So they don't realize that 5 hours has gone past, 6 hours has gone past. All of a sudden, when the parent comes back, they realize, oh, mommy's back and I missed you. And then they continue that little cry. And that's where parents have to understand that if we play these games of connection and loss of connection and connection, we train our children to realize that we will come back. And that gives the child a sense of security and confidence. The end of blissful eye gazing. Something that parents start doing when they're babies, but then tend to stop doing as the baby goes into toddlers and from toddlers to preschool. Now, especially in preschool, what tends to happen is the parents get off the floor and start hovering over the child. And I see this consistently. And I am at fault for sometimes doing that as well, because I think, oh, he's my son's half my size, so half my size, so I'm able to just stand. But then I got to remember, I'm still a giant, and that's when I have to go down to his level and connect with my son. Now, this game is such a valuable tool that we tend to forget. The eye gazing, it's a magical game. Eye gazing is a great way to connect with your child. Eye gazing is still an option with the child over 2. All children 3, 6 and older should be engaged in soulful eye gazing with you. Most parents are skeptical at first, but when they do this, wow, it's so rewarding. My second son at this moment of time is 3.5, and I do this with him, and we have such an amazing connection, the bond, just like this parent over here in the slide, that just looking at each other. and just gazing at each other, and the connection is instantly built. And I tried doing this with my 7-year-old, but he didn't want to do it, so I decided to make it into a game, and this is a fantastic game to do it with the older children. If everyone remembers the let's have a staring competition but no blinking, I've changed the rules. I said let's have a staring competition. You're allowed to blink, but the first one to move their head loses. And I did this for my son recently, and he said, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And he looked into my eyes, and I looked into his eyes. And the love that I felt and the connection that I felt. And the connection was overwhelming for my son that he couldn't handle it. He all of a sudden, like a pressure cooker of love, started to laugh and giggle. And all of a sudden, he just jumped into me and gave me a hug. And that was so amazingly beautiful. It works. It's a magic recipe. It's actually a magic spell that if you take it on and actually do this, instantly builds connection. And if nothing else, just do this. If you get nothing else from the course and you do this, connection with your children is going to be amazing. Okay. Finding connection everywhere. The Love Gun game. This game is great. I actually saw someone do this. This is not from me. So the Love Gun game shows how an ordinary situation can be resolved with playing. So the example that I saw was one of my friends' son had a gun and decided to point it at my friend. And I looked at my friend and I thought, is this situation, how is he going to try resolving this situation? It's a squirt gun, but some parents are against guns, and he was. But he flipped it, and I loved it. And I even said to him, I'm going to use this example. He flipped it and said, that gun you got there, that's a love gun. And whoever you shoot will instantly fall in love with you. And his son pulled the trigger. And my friend jumped down and grabbed hold of his son, and started goofing around with a smile and pretending to love him. Well, not pretending, he obviously loves him, but overacting the love. And there's so much giggles, and then all of a sudden the gun was turned to me, and the same thing happened, and so I had to do the same thing. But it was such an amazing way to connect, but also to get rid of the fact of the dangers of guns. Now, it can be emphasized that lots of parents will say, yeah, guns are great. We should teach our children, to be, especially with boys, be men. But guns is not being manly. Killing each other is not. We shouldn't be teaching our innocent children that. They'll learn that as they go older and the news is on and they'll see it in the movies. We should be teaching them love and connection and being allowed to freely open their emotions. There are many other variations of the Love Gun game. Other variations is slipping love notes under the door when the child has barricaded themselves in the room. So if the child locks themselves in, parents tend to go bang, 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 open the door right now, or else, knowing that the parent can't do anything because the door is locked. But what we can do is we can write silly, sappy notes and push them under. And if the child can't read, we can push him under and read it out loud. And it's a great way of building the connection. The child will start giggling. If the child is kicking or punching, we can say that the kicks and punches, they're love taps. Because at the end of the day, if we are protecting ourselves properly, any child under 7, their punches and kicks aren't really going to hurt. They don't have enough muscle power to hurt us. But we can make it into a game where it's a connection. And there's a section that I'm going to be talking about, a rough and tumble section. There's sections in here that in the nursery world we are not allowed to do, obviously, for obvious reasons. However, as parents, we should definitely do rough and tumble because it's a great way of connecting. But before doing rough and tumble, and there's a whole section on it that I'm going to go through, and fathers should do this, learn this, we should set the ground rules. There should always be a code word. In my house, it's bananas, because we don't usually, whilst we're playing, shout out bananas. It can be anything. That's something that you don't use. that basically means it's gone a bit too far, or I'm hurt. Because sometimes in rough tumble, you can sometimes graze yourself, your arm gets in a certain way, and you have to shout out bananas, and everyone has to stop. And the more you do it, the more it becomes a normal thing. But I'll go through that whole section coming up soon. Unlocking the tower of isolation. Now, children isolate themselves in many ways, like insulting people. We see children insulting adults and we think, oh, wow, that child is very majorly not disciplined at all. But the truth of it is the child is isolated. They feel like they're disconnected. The key to locking the child's personal tower that they built and they've isolated themselves in that is realizing that the insults are sometimes just a way that they want to connect. This, again, I go back over to the communication, the art of communication. There's two forms of communication that we always have to remember from every single human being that lives on this planet. And that is, one is a loving communication and one is a cry for help. And if a child is throwing insults or being silly, we think they're misbehaving. It's actually just a cry for help. They're just inviting you to connect with them. So instead of getting mad, turn it into play. Like if a child calls you, for example, I won't use any bad words, but here, if the child calls you stinker, you could say, oh, shh, that's my nickname and my secret name. Don't tell anyone that. And all of a sudden, it's a game. So before, where it was a disconnection and a parent could have said, excuse me, you do not speak to me like that. Now apologize. The way the situation is going to occur in that scenario is going to be completely different to if the parent goes down to the child level and goes, shh, please, that's my nickname. Don't tell anyone that. That's my nickname. That's just, you can't, how did you find out? All of a sudden, the child starts screaming it out. Oh, he's a stinker. His nickname's Stinker. And that's, all of a sudden, a game is formed. And you can say, oh, right, I told you not to. And then all of a sudden, you're playing chase, which has happened a lot in my house. If the child is physically or emotionally isolating themselves, keep inviting the child to connect. Now, we don't go up to the child and say, oh, connect with me. We just have to, a great way is just to get down on the floor and just sit with them silently. That is an invitation for you to connect. And a way of disconnecting is saying, right, well, you can take some time to yourself, or just getting up and going to another room, leaving them by themselves. That's not an invitation. That's actually closing the door on them. So what we have to realize is the way we're going to connect with our children is actually getting down to the level, inviting them, going back to them. See how far you can get within proximity, because they will know how far they want you to be. You can just sit where you in the distance and they will come to you and maybe start talking about something else. And that's their invitation to reconnect. But one thing we have to remember is reconnection takes persistence. Like passing a note under a locked door to a child can make the child open the door eventually, because they know that you're passing the note, they're holding the note, they're reading the note, you're still there, you're passing the note, they're holding the note. That connection is being formed, and then all of a sudden they feel like they need a hug. And another beautiful way that I use and parents can use this, and unfortunately in the nursery world we're not allowed to use it, is the parents can say, and I've mentioned this before, can say, oh, I need a hug. I feel sad. I need a hug. And you've given the power to the child to be able to say, oh, I will be the hero. And they feel like they're the hero, and they also feel like they're absolutely confident to be able to get up and help you. And you taught them how to be compassionate. It's a great technique, but sometimes the government does not allow things like that in the nursery. Who is that holding you? Moving from casual connection to deep connection. This is another great game. Developing a connection involves more than just playing. There are other non-playing interactions just as important, like comforting and holding a crying child. An example is that a mum would be away for their child imagine a mum is away from the child for about 36 hours. Now the connection has been completely severed. The child feels like the mother has gone and now they come back, and the mum would try to gaze into the daughter's eyes, but the daughter keeps looking elsewhere. In order to reconnect, they would play the game, Who is Holding You? This is a great game. It may take a lot of repetition, but reconnection is established with the daughter through the lovingly looking up to the mum and saying, Mummy's holding me. This is one of the ways of how play can help move a relationship from a casual connection to a deep connection. This happens with me a lot when I'm at the door at my nursery and my son's in the nursery and he's been in there in the preschool, and I open the door and I walk in and he's sitting and he notices me and he starts looking away. He's looking away, and I just sit there and then I cover my eyes and I look again, almost like playing peekaboo, similar to this game. Who's looking at you or who's holding you? And then he would get up all of a sudden and run and connect with me, and I love those. Those are very special moments to me and any parent. So that is the end of the connection module. We're going to be moving on to the next module. Just remember, all this information, you want to repeat it over again. The thing that I tend to do is I save these modules, this membership area, on my phone in the home screen, and whenever I'm cleaning up or emptying the dishwashers or doing something that I don't feel like doing, I put my headphones on. But when my children are asleep, I put my headphones on and I do the task, but I listen and I learn these techniques or any other techniques over and over again. So this is just another little tip to actually benefit from this. A lot of parents say, I don't have time. I've got dishes to do. I've got cleaning to do. I've got this to do. And as a parent and also as a man, I don't tend to like doing certain things. And as women don't like doing certain things, but you can, it's a method called net time, no extra time. If you're doing the dishwashers, like I personally don't like emptying the dishwasher, but I love listening and learning. So I stack up what I'm doing together. So I put my headphones on with my Bluetooth and my phone here. I start listening to these and my focus comes to what I like, and all of a sudden, in no time, the dishes are done, the breakfast is made, the juices are all done, and I've learned a lot of new information. So yeah, do that. Go back, repeat these. The repetition is mother of all skill, and you just want to keep repeating these. That's why I'm keeping these little chunks to 20 minutes max. Okay, I'll see you in the next module.